Hello, Gemini, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of September 2022. This reading will be for Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So, by all means, if you're feeling curious, you can check out any of the readings that apply, as each one may resonate for you differently. And as always, please do keep in mind all of these readings are general in nature. They're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals, and that means that not necessarily everything that comes through will be for you. Definitely take anything and everything that does resonate for you, however that might connect to your personal circumstances, whatever that might evoke or stir up within you, and simply leave the rest. It's likely if it doesn't resonate or make sense that it's not for you. So, Gemini, I hope you're having a great summer so far. I can't believe it's almost over. I hope that August was good to you. Thank you so much for being here today with me. I am so excited to have the opportunity to sit down and read your cards and see what September has in store. I do apologize, it's taken me a while to get this reading out to you. I basically only am able to record while the baby is napping, so it's been a little bit hit and miss this month. We've had a lot of roadblocks, so I'm here now. And in fact, it's never too late to look at the reading. It might even resonate or make a little bit more sense with the month of September already being underway. So regardless, we're here. I've got your 2 oracle cards. We will do a full and thorough read of your tarot. Once we've finished with that, I'll take a moment to share with you the channeled messages that I took some time to connect with before getting your cards out. And then we will conclude the reading with a couple of affirmations and one final oracle message as a final piece of advice to tie everything together. So before we jump into your cards, I will take a moment to share with you the channeled energetic impression that I picked up on as I was preparing your cards for this reading and setting intentions. So the sense that I got was like of a lot of movement going on. So that could be movement in terms of having a lot of plans, having a lot of excitement. It could be literal movement, like you're moving around a lot, you're always on the go. Maybe there's traveling, or perhaps like bouncing around from place to place. It could be personal life, it could be due to work. It's just the sense of like having a lot of movement. So that could be having a lot of plans, having a lot of things on your schedule, having a really heavy workload, or a lot of things on your to-do list. But I got the sense nonetheless that, there's a chance that things are going to be going pretty smoothly. I didn't really get a sense of things being stressful and overwhelming, just busy. And kind of like a sense of like feeling like things are manageable, or you're able to stay on top of it. And that kind of went hand in hand with a feeling of vitality. So feeling energetic, feeling healthy, feeling capable, like, having the energy that you need to do. So that could be why, if you do happen to be busier than usual, or there's a lot more going on than usual, maybe it isn't really dragging you down because you're in a period where your vitality is increased and you've got the energy to meet the demands. And I would just say, with that in mind, if things are feeling easier and going more smoothly, and in spite of being a little bit busier, just be aware not to overdo it. Sometimes we can bite off a little bit more than we can chew, or we end up running ourselves down a little bit without even necessarily realizing it when we are working with that kind of energy. But yeah, it was a very solid impression overall for you guys this month. The next thing that I kind of picked up on was a sense of feeling annoyed, or having certain tasks that you particularly dislike. They annoy you, they bring up like frustration and resistance. It could be anything. It could be dealing with a certain person, it could be a specific chore or work task that you need to do. But it's kind of like that thing that you look at that it's like you always dread it, right? Because it takes a lot of time, or it's really tedious, or it's something that you find to be a little bit challenging or a little bit more work than everything else. So it just kind of takes that extra little bit of attention and focus. And it's paying attention to the fact that if you do have specific things like that you really do feel avoidant of, or that like, when the time comes to manage them, you can feel yourself becoming frustrated. It's just to keep in mind that it's likely because you find it's a little bit extra work, right? And it might be demanding a little bit more attention and awareness from you when you're carrying it out. And the fact is, if it's something that needs to be done, the easiest thing to do is just to kind of allow yourself to relax and to slow down a little bit and just try giving it that little bit of extra attention without worrying about how unpleasant it may be, because that might help things flow a little bit more smoothly for you. Sometimes the more we resist it, the more those kind of challenging tasks actually take out of us. And so I would say, especially if you've got a lot going on and you're really productive and you're handling it well, those tasks that you find to be more draining or tiring or kind of just like annoying or frustrating, you can definitely let yourself just slow down a little bit, take a little bit of extra time, maybe even try to incorporate that as like, if it's something kind of mindless, like doing laundry or whatever, like try and incorporate that into some downtime, or some kind of enjoyable approach might help. And then the last thing that came through was the sense of like a feeling of space opening up in my head. And so it's kind of like the idea of spring cleaning, like, going through all your stuff, like clearing out all the clothes that don't fit you anymore or that you don't like, or, stuff that you never use, whether you're tossing it or donating it or selling it kind of thing. It's like just getting rid of the stuff that is just clutter. And so you might be doing something like this consciously. There might be a lot of thoughts, memories you might be tied to past people or experiences. Like there might just be a lot of clutter in your head that's keeping you from being able to focus on the things that you need to do for yourself. So it might be conscious or it might be subconscious, just in terms of like, perhaps cycles are ending, things are wrapping up, and there are things that are just kind of moving out of your awareness because they're not important anymore. But yeah, there's definitely a sense of like things clearing out to make room for more to come in. So you might very well find yourself feeling more receptive, like you've got a little bit more space and a little bit more awareness to take in new information or new people, or to do a little bit of reflecting and work on in terms of your personal development. But yeah, there's a sense of like the old things falling away, and you don't necessarily have to have something new to replace it with, but it's opening up that space so that as you start connecting with new things, you've got a greater capacity to kind of hold on to them and do something with them. So that's really good, because it kind of highlights that you might be moving out of some endings and coming into a space of being able to receive something new. And I think like that kind of like out with the old and willingness to or having room to receive the new, it might not even it might not even be something that you're consciously trying to work on, but it could just be like having less going on in your head, less that you're thinking about, less analysis or overthinking. And if you're busy and you're being really productive and things are flowing really well for you in that capacity, it might just be keeping you out of your head so that you are a little bit more receptive. So it could just be focusing on, the physical tasks and like just taking care of the things that need to get done. That's actually giving your mind a bit of a break, because if things are going smoothly, you don't have to think heavily about everything. And that might be giving you more room to have like new ideas come in. And it could shift your mood for the better, like your mood and your overall mindset, because you're just taking care of things and you're seeing that you're able to accomplish those things, and your mind is getting a little bit of a rest, right? So I'm going to get into your cards now. Your first oracle card is Going Beyond Normal. And then your second card is the Void. And it says, Stop, Embrace Winter, Great Cosmic Womb. So these are kind of interesting cards to go together, because it's kind of indicating that either a shift may be coming, like a shift that might be significant or meaningful to you in some way. It may be coming. You may be feeling called to make a shift, or you may already be in the process of either working out what that might be or moving in that direction if you have identified what it is. And so with going beyond normal, this is basically saying like that you're being given permission to go about life in a way that makes sense to you in more than just a really highly structured, logical, analytical way, right? So this is saying that sometimes there are standards placed, maybe societal standards, maybe standards at, at work, or that have been passed down by family members. Maybe there are things that we've come up with ourselves, like in terms of rules for how life needs to be lived. That anything in order to be successful needs to be like rigidly structured and hyper planned and like very well thought out, and there has to be like a very concrete step-by-step measurable plan to continuously like monitor and check in on in order to kind of get to your end destination and to be successful. And this is saying like that isn't necessarily going to serve you, because although logic and analysis and strategy and planning, those are absolutely great tools, right? Those are great tools to use to our advantage, and they certainly can help us in a lot of different situations. But if we rely on them too heavily, like if we worship them, if those are the golden standard for, the way that we approach everything in our lives, it's basically a recipe for your soul to be suffocated, because it's just so structured and so rigid and so logical that it doesn't really allow room for anything else. It doesn't allow room for your specific take or your ideas or the creative concepts that you might come up with, or the things that you're passionate about or the things that you're inspired by, right? So you can see there's like these kind of rings of limitation. There's all these buttons, and these buttons are holding everything into place. These different structures that are kind of keeping your mind functioning like a clock, right? Like clockwork. And then we've got this golden light bulb, which is usually an idea, right? A creative idea, something out of the ordinary. And it's basically just busting through all of those layers of things being buttoned down and moving out into the direction of kind of like a limitless possibility. And so this is basically saying like there is something to be said for your creativity, for your unique ideas, right? And this might be something that makes you a little bit eccentric or a little bit weird, right? It might be, you might be already somebody who has kind of embraced their unique nature or their weirdness or their eccentricity and isn't afraid to live in that space. So you might already kind of be on the fringe, challenging people's ideas about how things can be done or how life can look. Or it may be that you're being called to step a little bit further into that rather than limiting yourself to either the path that's already laid out or the structures that are already in place. Because with this card showing up, it's basically saying like if you're really preoccupied with following the rules and doing everything that you need to do to like check all the boxes and to have somebody look at you and sign off on you and say like, yeah, you're doing everything right, just based on this structure that you're using, that you are not necessarily going to get the level of happiness and satisfaction and inner peace and contentment that you're looking for by taking that approach, because it's basically like your soul is longing for more, whether it's something you're consciously aware of or not. And the more that you lean into that rigid structure and that need for logic and analysis, the more disconnected you become from what your heart is truly longing for. And so the prison that can be, expected, like that you're maybe expected to create, kind of becomes a prison of your own making as you fall into line in that sense. And so this is saying like, Not that you should throw logic or planning or structure and that kind of logical, practical stuff to the wind. But it's saying, like, if you're going to use it to empower yourself, use it to take action and to make plans and to help you connect with the things that inspire you and to live a life that is moved by those things. Right? So it's like, instead of limiting yourself by saying, like, the only way that I can be successful, or that I can find a romantic partner, or, that I can, save money for this trip, or whatever the case may be, is if I am like this very, very highly calculated version of success, or I am strictly embodying the things that are, associated with attractiveness, right? So it's kind of like, by agreeing to play by those rules, you're really not allowing yourself to embrace what's going on inside that's longing to be expressed, which will ultimately take you in a direction that's going to be more meaningful and beneficial to you. So it's like, you can use logic and planning and all of that good stuff, but it should be helping you move in a direction that you want to go in, that's unique and meaningful to you, and kind of helping you make the most of the resources that are available to you as you embrace these ideas. It could be your creativity, right? It could be anything meaningful to you. And so this energy, this creative energy, the passionate energy, that fringe dwelling, like kind of potentially challenging the status quo, or challenging the perceived limitations about how things can be done, or what it takes to be successful, and all the planning and work that needs to go into it. You're being asked to recognize that it's kind of the way that they explain it in the guidebook is like being an artist or a gardener. So it's not to say that you don't have a plan, right? So there might be a plan, or like a loosely held plan of like what you're going to do, what you're going to create, what you're going to plant. And you might have specific tools that you're going to need, or that you will benefit from, to help you do the job. But it's like the way that it takes shape, the way that you put the paint on the canvas, the way that you plant the seeds and tend the garden has a lot to do with the environment around you and what you're up against, right? So it's kind of like recognizing that there still is a certain amount of structure, or you may have an idea as to, what will help you get to where you need to go, but that you're not being limited in the way that you can express yourself, because it's basically that personal self-expression in the process of making that happen, or planting those seeds. It's going to make it something uniquely yours. And so, so you might be asked to kind of like step into something new. You might be at a choice point where it's like you can follow the path that has been laid out for you, and, focus on strictly meeting the expectations that are external to you, or, perhaps stepping off the beaten path and figuring out for yourself, right? Because the challenge with that is that it takes courage, and it takes a certain level of being able to manage the discomfort that comes with the unknown, and to trust that if you allow yourself the opportunity to step into the unknown in a way that's meaningful to you, that you can trust that life is going to be an adventure that's unfolding for you, right? As opposed to kind of stepping back from this idea of adventure and needing to have a very, very well thought out, very calculated route that you're kind of constantly checking up on. Because you can do that, and you can experience success in that way, but it just kind of it suffocates the soul, because there isn't a lot of room for creative expression or excitement, right? So if things are stagnating and excitement is something that you want to connect with, then it's basically saying, like, you have the opportunity potentially to take some of your creativity, take some of your inspiration and the things that you're passionate about, and move toward them, see what they might have to show you. And it's being encouraged, right? Because other people might not get it, and they might not see that you can do, that you can work with what you've got, or that you can be successful. But it's kind of like, in following your own path, you encourage other people not to be afraid about fitting into societal norms, or, playing so strictly by the rules that they lose their own identity, or perhaps they don't know what's most important to them. They don't know how to connect with their creativity. So it's basically saying like you can benefit from it, but it's also other people that will benefit from seeing a different way, right? And seeing someone step out of line and follow a different path. And perhaps there's the opportunity for other people to start trusting themselves enough to allow themselves to do that. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. It's like the only desirable qualities are not just, intellect and strategy and structure, right? That there is room for intuition and creativity and passion, and the way that that's incorporated into your life, and the things that will be associated with as you move forward will be very unique to you. It's like the things that make you excited about life, right? So I'm just trying to think. There was a lot of stuff in the guidebook about this, so forgive me if I'm a little bit scattered. I'm just trying to kind of connect all of the dots there. But the thing that I like about this coming up with the void is like a very immense kind of fertile space, right? So it says the great cosmic womb, and the idea is that it's the place that all things originate, right? So it's kind of this big black space of potential, I guess. Like there's a certain quality of expansiveness, but it's also recognizing that there's not necessarily anything taking shape, right? So it could be that you're in a transitional phase, like perhaps something has just ended or has just come to an end, and you're being asked to kind of let go of everything that you identify yourself with. So that could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be like a milestone in your life, it could be a new self-concept, a new way of thinking about the world or thinking about yourself. But it's basically like something has ended, something has changed, you've had whatever experience you were meant to have, and now you're ready to move forward, but you may be in this kind of transitional space where it's like you're being asked to kind of just purge and let go of all the things that you used to limit yourself by, or all the ways that you used to measure yourself. All of the things that you use to kind of give yourself an identity, to place yourself in the world, or to judge your success. And it's kind of like, in order to step into this energy of going beyond normal and really embracing your authenticity, and allowing yourself to be moved by those, less tangible things, because this is saying like, yeah, okay, logic and practicality has a place because it's highly structured and it can be empirically measured, but the heart, intuition, like, sometimes you just know things without knowing how, and it can be uncannily accurate regardless of whether it can be understood or proven in a logical, structured type of way, right? And so if you are in the process of making this shift, or if you kind of sense that it's coming, you see that there's a kind of a decision to be made, it might be that you are being called to really just kind of rest and to allow yourself to process the experiences that you've had to date, the ways that you've gone about things, the ways that you've limited, perhaps the level of either comfort or limitation that you felt as a result of the expectations that have been put on you about how things need to be done. Maybe your connection to logic and planning and empirical ways of measuring success, and just kind of allow those to move away, right? To recognize that those may have served you, to get to where you are now, right? But it may be deeply ingrained in this past experience, this experience that either has finished or is in the process of being finished, or you're being asked to let go of, so that you can kind of step into something new. So this is almost like an incubator of sorts, where it's like you can take time to process and disconnect from the things that aren't necessarily going to serve you moving forward, especially if you want to step into a space that's more expansive, where you're willing to connect with more opportunity, and to see intuitively, emotionally, creatively, in terms of what inspires you, like what is asking to be birthed, what is asking to be expressed, right? So I really kind of like that, because it's saying like this is kind of your winter right now. It's not necessarily a time where, even if you do realize a decision has to be made, or you think you've made a decision, it's not necessarily a time that you're going to be charging forward. You may have made the decision, and that might be reflected in your external circumstances, like if it was the end of a relationship or the end of a job or whatever the case may be. But it's basically saying like, this is the time to kind of get intentional about what it is that you're trying to connect with. And you might not exactly know what that is, but it's recognizing that there's a whole lot of potential, there's a whole lot of opportunity, and things are moving forward and taking shape under the surface, even if you can't quite see it. So it's kind of like, with the gardener. If you are planting a garden, you've planted the seeds and you've been tending to them, and you can't necessarily know what the progress is, and you can't continuously dig up the seed to check on its progress, because it's either not going to be viable or it may be completely stunted, right? So there has to be a certain amount of release and surrender and trust in the process that, taking that action, planting the seed, tending to it, is doing something, right? And that things are being woven, things are falling into place, things are growing, things are getting you closer to where you want to be in that intended garden that you're wanting to enjoy, even if it's not obvious to you, even if you can't see it right now. So there's a certain amount of trust that needs to be had, and that, all you can do is take that kind of consistent action. But sometimes there's a waiting period, right? Sometimes there's a waiting period until, the changes that we've made internally or externally or both are starting to be reflected more evidently in our external circumstances. So it's just trusting, right? Trusting that if you are making a decision to shift into something new, if this is something that's drawing you in, that you might be in a transitional phase where it's like you're working on it, even if it's not like actively taking action. Sorry, my nose is really itchy. Even if you're not taking action in a tangible way, but it's just the seed has been planted in your mind and you're considering moving toward it, it's just trusting wherever you are, you're in the right space and things are moving forward if that's what you wish. But it's really a time of rest and reflection so that you can be prepared to take action and really jump into things in a way that allows you to embrace your emotions, your intuition, your passion and creativity, however that looks and feels to you. So it's just kind of like a rest and reflection period for you right now. And not to allow fear or doubt to creep in while things are being woven, right? To trust that things are falling into place and things are working out. Even if you can't necessarily see how. And I think just focusing on what this is going to look like, what it is that you're trying to create, how you might be more authentic, right? Might be a way to help you navigate this period where things aren't necessarily taking action, right? So you might feel as if you need to be doing something, but really all you're being called to do is to let go of what you once were so that you're open to receive. So it's like letting go of control and worry, right? Which control and worry really inform a lot of the structures that hold us in place in this card, in the normal. So this is all about how you're being asked to surrender to the mystery of life, the magic of life. This card is about embracing the magic of life and not sacrificing all of those beautiful magical things for just logic, right? So yeah, it's kind of like as crappy as it sounds, it's kind of like the trust the process vibe, wherever you are, whatever you're contending with. Your first card for this month is the World, which is very fitting. I'll explain once we get the rest of your cards out here. Just dropping cards. Okay, let's see. Your second card for this month is the Father of Swords, which is the King of Swords. Your third card is Temperance. And we'll get you one more. Oh, that was quick. Okay, your final card is the Seven of Pentacles. Okay, and at the bottom of the deck you have the Empress, and the Empress is all about something longing to be created, something longing to be nurtured, to be born, to be birthed into the world, whether a child, a creative project, like some kind of tangible thing that you might be designing or building. Like that's kind of interesting. Okay, so we'll clarify all of these cards first, and then we will read them all together here. Okay, so the World is clarified by the Magician. We'll clarify the King of Swords next. King of Swords is clarified by the Seven of Swords. Temperance is clarified by the Eight of Swords. And the Seven of Pentacles is clarified by the Page of Swords. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the Three of Cups. Okay, so with the Empress at the bottom of the deck, I really like that it's shown up here, because it kind of validates the idea that there might be something that's calling you, right? Something that you're passionate about, something that you're excited about, that you feel drawn to create, maybe a creative process that's longing to be connected with, and the outcome or the creation is yet to be seen. So yeah, it could be art, it could be something to do with your job, like a new idea, a new business, it could be like a product that you might build or create, it could be any idea that's basically any idea that's just like a concept or a spark of inspiration within you that's longing to be created in a physical manner, manifested physically. So whether that's like a child, like a physical child that you want to conceive, right? Being conceived and born into the world, or like a painting that you're inspired to create, right? So it's like taking that inspiration and being able to take tangible, concrete action, recognizing your ability to take ideas and to take steps in our physical reality to create and to manifest those, whatever form that holds. But it's a very nurturing energy. So it's recognizing not only you're capable of doing that, but the process, the work that it takes, the energy it takes to bring it to life. And then once it has come to life, or once it's been realized and manifested in a physical sense, the ability to maintain it, to nurture it, to care for it, right? And this is connected to the Three of Cups, which is a card of loving connections, friendship, community. So it could be a creative endeavor. Maybe you're a part of a community, that has helped inspire whatever it is that's longing to be created. Maybe you've got a network of people who are kind of helping you to hone your efforts. Maybe there's a community that inspires you on a creative or inspirational level that you're longing to be a part of, but it's something connected to your emotions, to your intuition, to your joy and happiness. So it could be that you're part of a community or longing to connect with a community of like-minded people who are looking to create or have the same types of experiences that you're having. And that's the underlying energy that's informing all of this. So it kind of goes nicely hand in hand with this idea of stepping into something new, allowing yourself to create without the restraints or the limitations of over analysis and hyperstructure and expectations that there's only certain ways that things can be done, and to really embrace this kind of fertile period where things are falling into place to allow you to take action in a different way. So the other thing that's really kind of interesting is that your strength this month is showing up as the World and the Magician. So the World is a card of endings. It's the last card in the major arcana. So it signifies like, major life lessons, coming to the end of like a certain period in life, a certain version of yourself, having, mastered a life lesson. So you have like new skills, new tools, new insights, new wisdom to move forward with. And it's about kind of taking that time to reflect on the experiences that you've had, all that you've learned along the way, the good times and bad times, and what you're going to take with you into this kind of void, right? So as you are contemplating what lays ahead, which is, essentially for all of us unknown. So it is a card of endings and embracing endings and figuring out what you're working with, and then starting to set your sights on the horizon and recognizing that you don't necessarily have to have a very highly detailed goal at this point that you're looking to move toward. It might just be a feeling. It might be an intuitive nudge or a strike of inspiration, and you might not necessarily know where that will take you or how that will manifest in its entirety, but it's recognizing that when it comes to passion and inspiration and creativity, and the things that we are, our feelings, the things that we're passionate about, it doesn't necessarily serve us to overanalyze and to plan it out, because it's something that needs to be connected with in the moment and acted upon, right? It's something that we need to infuse into what we're doing. And there isn't, like I said, there isn't a whole lot of room for that if you're, worried about playing by the rules and coloring within the lines and being seen as, acceptable, right? So this is basically saying like, this is coming to an end, and with that ending comes the opportunity to connect with a new beginning. And it's a really good time to let go of anything that might be holding you back from taking advantage of the wealth of opportunity that's available to you. But not only that, the wealth of opportunity to connect with something that's going to be really unique and meaningful to you. And for it to be clarified by the Magician, there you go. Magician is the first card, right? In the major arcana. And so with it being the first card, it can signify, the beginning of something new. So you've literally got an ending and a beginning. This is a major energy, like in a life lesson kind of way. So this could be, something could be ending that has been a major theme in your life, or that you've been involved in for a long period of time, like a number of years. And it could be something that has brought you through a lot of like potentially challenging situations, or maybe you've just really kind of struggled to get to the end of this, and now there's the opportunity to connect with something new. And it's recognizing that you have the ability, like I was saying, you have the ability to connect with inspiration, and from that inspiration you can take inspired action in a tangible physical way. And that basically brings your inspiration down into reality. Like, you are a manifester. You're taking the information and the energy that's available to you, and you're alchemizing it, right? You're turning that energy and that intention into something in the physical world. So it is essentially like magic. And what you put out eventually will come back to you, right? So energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So if you're taking action in a tangible way, and you recognize your ability to do so, it's like it will impact your external environment. It will come back to you in some way. And whatever it is that you are focusing on, if it's fear and limitation, that is going to be motivating. And that's going to be a part of what you're putting out there. And that inevitably is going to impact what is coming back to you. So it's about being really intentional. Do you want to create from a place of fear and needing to be highly structured and highly acceptable? Or do you want to create from a place of passion and inspiration in a manner that's meaningful to you, right? So it's like whatever you're focused on, whatever you're whatever rules you're applying to yourself, that's really impacting the way that you can take action, and that's going to impact what's coming back to you. So make sure when you're creating, you're doing it from an empowered place where you're going to be happy. You might not know exactly how the results will manifest or exactly where you're heading, but it's knowing that if you are doing it for the right reasons, that will be reflected back to you. And so it's kind of trusting that as you're taking action, as you're trying to take this inspiration and bring it forth into the world, you don't necessarily know how things are going to go. You're not necessarily going to be able to plan it out step by step or measure your progress in an empirical kind of way. And so that can open the door for fear or, worry or anxiety to come in, which can ultimately kind of knock you off your game. And sometimes it makes us abandon the things that are most important to us, because it's scary to be in that waiting period where we're, trying to connect with something new or trying to take different action in the world, and we're not necessarily immediately validated. Or, it takes a while for things to take shape, so we don't get instant gratification, and we're not necessarily immediately seeing the rewards of doing things differently. So this is about trust. The way that we can create in an empowered way and we'll eventually be able to manifest something that we're going to benefit from is by trusting our ability to take action, trusting that we're doing so from a place that's going to make something beautiful for us, and trusting that things are being woven even if it's not apparent. So if you're in a period of rest where there's not a lot of action going on, or the action that is going on isn't necessarily what you thought, it's trusting that it's part of the process, and to still kind of maintain your focus, maintain your attention, keep doing what you need to do, right? Because this is saying you're the master of everything. You've got, you have logic and planning and strategy and communication as a skill to work with. You can master that. You have emotions and intuition and, like connections, like meaningful connections that you can use and take advantage of. You've got the ability to take tangible, concrete action in the physical world and to see results, right? Whether it's physically building something or, growing a garden, creating a masterpiece of a painting, right? It's like taking action in a way that you see how you are impacting and changing, and you see what you're creating in your physical environment. You've got that, which would be connected to your material resources and wealth even. And then you've got that spark of enthusiasm and excitement and creativity and passion that's inspiring you to connect with new ideas, to move in different ways, right? So you've got all of the elements. You've got pentacles, you've got swords, you've got wands, you've got cups, and you can use all of the qualities that are helpful to manifest, right? It requires balancing all of them out and using them to your advantage, and trusting that if you can kind of keep yourself in balance, then you're going to be taking action in a way that's balanced and right for you. And what you put out, you're drawing right back into yourself. So there is the opportunity for creative manifestation. There is the opportunity for you to embrace and step into something new. It'll just kind of require you to feel trusting and to kind of find a way to manage the discomfort of not knowing, right? Because that's what this is about. And that's what this is about too. It's like stepping out into a path that's more authentic and meaningful to you. You don't necessarily know how that's going to go. So it's about trusting that, if you approach life as an adventure, it will be an adventure, and you can handle things as they come. So that's showing up as your strength. Your challenge or your block that may need to be worked through to help you move in the direction of your highest good is showing up as the King of Swords and the Seven of Wands. So I get with this that there may be a clash between your thoughts, your perceptions, your beliefs about yourself, about other people, about the world around you, perhaps about these rules, these standards, these limitations, this need for planning and organization and structure in order to be successful, and the things that are inspiring you, right? The creativity that's asking to be acted upon, the exciting things that are kind of bubbling up within you that you're constantly kind of judging or saying like, well, that's not feasible, or I can't do that, or in order to do that and be successful, I would have to make this like big, massive business plan. And it's like sometimes you just need to take inspired action to get the ball moving. Sometimes it's not about logic and analysis. So it's kind of like, yeah, your perceptions and logical analysis might be battling with your passion and enthusiasm and desire to move forward. And there could also be fear, right? So there could be fear, fear of being challenged, fear of people not taking you seriously, fear of people not supporting you, or calling out the fact that you're doing things in a different way. So there could be insecurity about, following your path and stepping outside of the normal way of doing things. And that might not be as a result of people actually who have demonstrated that. It might just be a fear, right? It might just be a fear that if you do what feels right for you and it's not normal, that people might start coming after you, people might attack you. But it's also a recognition that you have the ability to decide what's important to you, right? And so it's like, if people are trying to knock you down, it's usually like they're below you. They're trying to knock you off your pedestal. And usually people are trying to knock you down because you're doing something impressive, or you're doing something in a different way that's showing them maybe their own fears or their own inadequacies. And so they're trying to take you down, right? So it's kind of like you may have the opportunity to be successful in a way that is really unique to you. And yeah, like if you draw haters, or if there's, friction in relationships, or, trolls, like people coming after you, it's like, you're already doing it, right? So you don't need to worry about them and what they think. They're not an integral part of you getting to where you need to be. If they're not there to support you, then why would you let them, knock you down? And even some of the people that you may rely on for support may end up being people that will judge you because you're not doing things in a normal kind of way. But this is about saying, like, if you can protect your inspiration, protect your creativity, protect the things that are most meaningful to you, and know that nobody who's meant to help you and support you on your path is going to be coming after you, trying to knock you down. And people can only make you feel inferior with your consent. Then it's like, you decide what you value. And if you're focused on, doing your own thing and being your authentic self, then it's like, whoever doesn't like that is meant to go. And by you continuing to embrace that energy and take action from that place, you're only going to draw in more people who are supportive of what you're trying to do. And then with this Knight of Swords, so it could be like the heart and the head, to a certain extent, being at odds, or taking something that is creative and inspiring and trying to overanalyze it. So you might be getting to like analysis paralysis and trying to understand logically how you can plan everything out and ensure your success, and realizing that like maybe that's not going to work. And maybe you've been taking that as proof that you can't do it or that you shouldn't do it. Whereas it's like, it's meant to be more of an organic process and less thought out. Or this Knight of Swords could also represent it could represent like needing to embrace your personal truth. So to recognize that there is like the truth of a matter or situation, and then there are personal truths. And our personal truths are going to look different because they have a lot more to do with what's important to us. And the Knight of Swords is about, feeling solid in your personal awareness and your personal truth, right? Your perceptions and beliefs of yourself and the world around you are aligned with what is most important to you. And it doesn't necessarily have to reflect what's important to everybody else. You don't need to tell them what they want to hear. You don't need to behave in a way that's acceptable to them. You don't have to work within the confines of those rules. This is basically saying like, this sort of truth is yours, and it's meant to cut through all of the noise, all of the stuff that's not meant for you, all of the stuff that's not going to serve you, right? So it's about being willing to stand in your personal power and speak your truth fairly, right? Fairly and firmly. You don't need to be You know, there's no need for ego or for defensiveness or judgment, because this is about you being true to yourself and following your path, taking action from a place where you're willing to stand up for yourself, whether people receive you well or not, right? So this could also be like if people are challenging you, maybe you're somebody who has a difficult time standing up for themselves, or maybe you don't want to rock the boat and say anything, but you feel kind of like maybe your power is taken from you to a certain extent because you either need to appease people and then do your own thing behind closed doors. It's like there might be something to do with being able to fairly and firmly speak your truth, and to kind of acknowledge that other people have their truth, but yours doesn't have to change. Yours isn't necessarily wrong. And it's just like if people can't meet you where you're at, or if they can't respectfully, agree to disagree, then that's a pretty good indicator that, you holding your ground is what is necessary in order to ensure that you're not aligning with people that don't really have any intention of supporting you and your authenticity, right? So that's showing up as your challenge, and that will manifest for each and every one of you differently based on just, everything that you're going through and have gone through to date. But yeah, there could be a fear of speaking your truth, and a fear of being attacked for who you really are, or being made to feel ashamed, right? And your recommended, I guess, your advice for dealing with this energy, however this block or challenge is showing up for you, is Temperance and the Eight of Swords. So Temperance itself is all about balance and recognizing that we can exist in extremes, but it's really not helpful to us, right? So inevitably, between all extremes, all opposite ends of the spectrum, so like happiness and sadness, work and play, logic and creativity, in every single one of those instances where it's just another part of our duality, we are inevitably going to move from one end of the spectrum to the other. Some deviances may be bigger than others, but this is basically saying like we're meant to have a variety of experiences on different ends of the spectrum. So it's like whether happy experiences or sad experiences, or like inspired or angry, right? Like we're meant to have that vast experience in order to help us learn and grow and to become more self-aware, to develop knowledge and skills to help bring ourselves into balance. Like balance is the goal, because when we're balanced, we're able to take most advantage of making our ideas work for us and impacting our physical environment with things that we're able to connect with on an energetic level, like through our emotions, through our creativity, like strikes of inspiration, all that kind of stuff, right? It's really hard to do that in a meaningful way and to do it really efficiently if we're all over the map, because like I was saying, there needs to be courage and trust and confidence that what you're putting out there is being woven. It is and will come back to you, even if it's not apparent. And sometimes you just need to be comfortable in the discomfort. It's a lot more difficult to do that if you don't have like your emotions in balance, or your perceptions are swayed by fear, because that can completely disrupt the process, or it can cause a lot of extra noise and a lot of extra tension that might take your attention away from what it is that you're trying to create. And so with Temperance being clarified by the Eight of Swords, this is particularly about balancing out your limiting beliefs, your fears, right? Because the mirror is reflecting to her that she is bound by all of these ropes, and all of these birds are holding these ropes, and she's blindfolded, so she can't see anything. She has no way to see anything about her surroundings. She has no information or no way of taking in information in order to make a decision or to see what's really going on. And her hands are bound, right? So it's like she can't move. But if you look at her actual body, she's not bound by anything. Nothing that exists in the mirror aside for her really exists. But the thing is If she's sitting here looking in this mirror and that's what's reflected back to her, she's going to believe that she's bound. She's going to believe that she's blind. She's going to believe that she's helpless to impact her environment or to connect with new ideas. And as long as she believes what's being reflected back to her, she's not necessarily going to test her boundaries. She's not necessarily going to see, like, can I break these ropes? Like, what if I just take off this blindfold that isn't even really there? And so this is just a really powerful reminder that our beliefs ultimately become our reality. The things that we have in the place that we are right now is a result of what we have thought up until now. And the things that we're thinking now are ultimately what we're manifesting tomorrow and beyond. And so it's recognizing that whether it's true in reality or not, whether you really are bound or stuck or limited or blind or, without options or information, whether that's really true or not, if that's what you see when you look at yourself and when you look at your life, if that's what you believe, you're not going to do anything differently. You're not going to test those beliefs. You're not going to challenge them to see if you've already committed to them. That's ultimately what's going to be reflected back to you. And so that's also a reminder that wherever you are right now is just a reflection of what's going on the inside, or what has been going on the inside to date. And so if you're not satisfied with the way things look outside of yourself, it's to just recognize, like, okay, if this is a reflection of where I've been internally, then I can make a decision to do something differently. And my external circumstances can change. So it's never too late to make a change, but it's about questioning your limiting beliefs, the things that are inspired by fear, or the things that make you feel disempowered, the beliefs about, like, well, yeah, I have to have a really detailed plan step by step, and I have to follow those steps to the exact T, and I have to measure each and every step in order to assess whether I've been successful or not, in order to eventually be successful in manifesting what I want to manifest. And this is saying, like, this is about the lies that you're telling yourself, about the limitations that you face that are quite often informed by fear. It could be past experiences or past disappointments that made us kind of come to a conclusion that we can't possibly do anything a certain way. It could be fears and limitations that are imposed on us by the people around us, or that were handed down, like, generationally. So now is the time to balance out and kind of see where you might be putting limitations on yourself in terms of your beliefs about yourself, your worth, your capability, the world, how things can be done. Because as long as you allow these limitations, these binds to hold you, and these binds don't actually exist, they can be broken at any time, it's really hard to harness this creative power and to make something that's going to be unique to you. And then your final kind of overarching message, what you need to know this month, is showing up as the Seven of Pentacles and the Page of Swords, which I really like. So this is all about being on a path to a physical manifestation. So, like, taking those practical steps each and every day to get you closer to your end goal, and recognizing that taking those practical steps, like putting in the work, the physical work that you need to in order to get to where you want to be, like, that's the same as saying, like, in order to paint a painting, you have to put paint on the canvas, right? It's like a painting isn't going to materialize if you're not using your tools and putting the work in, right? So this is about taking those steps, and you can take those steps and you can put in that work each and every day to get a little bit closer to materializing whatever it is that has inspired you, or whatever is longing to take shape, without it being hyper, structured and planned and limited. So even in the most practical application of getting things done, there's still room for inspiration. There's still room for creativity. Even if you know that you have to take action, the how is open to you, right? Because the Seven of Pentacles is about taking that consistent action and seeing the fruits of our labor, like seeing the rewards start to surface, seeing the results of our hard work and our effort start to take shape in a tangible physical form. So whether that is in money, or a promotion, or a work in progress that's slowly taking form in one way or another, it's basically being able to see how your effort and your hard work is taking shape and benefiting you, how those ideas, those things that inspired you are starting to enter your physical reality, and remaining committed to taking that consistent action, because it's like, if it's taking shape and you see, that your work, you're finally starting to see that things are being woven, whether you recognize it earlier or not, it's being willing to continue being dedicated to taking those steps and seeing it through, right? And while you're doing so, it's about being open to new opportunities, new insights, new inspiration, right? This is all about having a beginner's mind, seeing absolutely everyone and everything as an opportunity to experience something new, to connect with a new viewpoint or perspective, to learn new information that might be valuable to you, that might connect you with certain people or open certain doors that will make it easier for you to continue along your path. And it's also trusting that as you come into contact with different ways of doing things, different information, that you don't have to be bound to it. You don't have to, just because it's something that you've learned doesn't mean that you have to use it or apply it to your own situation. It's recognizing that you can still have your personal truth and your personal awareness, and you can use your own discretion in what makes sense for you. What is it that's going to further you on your path, and what can you just accept as an alternate viewpoint, just to purely expand your awareness, right? The way that other people think, the way that other people do things, right? Because the more that we learn and the more that we know, the more that widely we're able to accept all of the vastly different ways of doing things and existing in the world, and that there's more than just those standard rules that were set out for us. So just like your path, unique path, might look completely different, and you're sharing that truth, other people may be on their personal paths and they may share that with you, and it might be enriching and eye-opening, but it's not necessarily right for you. So it's trusting that you can kind of be a blank canvas yourself, right? Like absorb, right? Take in absolutely everything, filter through what is valuable, what is going to help you, channel that into taking continued steps. And this might be helpful also in recognizing limiting beliefs, because in seeing how other people have kind of broken the mold or how other people are doing things, it might inspire you to kind of become more aware of some of the fears that are ruling you, or some of the lies that you tell yourself about how things can and should be done. So there's a lot of information, and there's a lot of evidence, even logically, in the external world that can help you connect with something a little bit more open-minded and a little bit more free, to help you embrace, stepping outside of the norm in that way that's going to be unique and meaningful to you. So I think that's kind of a cool message, because there is a lot of like material ability, the ability to create, and the ability for things to actually take form in a tangible way. So this could be a career, it could be money, it could be savings, it could be material items. But it's basically saying, like, if what you are looking to do, you're hoping to have some kind of impact on your material resources or your money, this could be very well highlighted. So whatever this is connected to, it might very well be a job or money, or it doesn't have to be. It could also be your health, family, that kind of thing. But that does seem to be very much highlighted here, that whatever is being created or longing to be created might have some kind of impact on your material resources and stability as well. So I'm going to share with you the channeled messages that I took some time to connect with before I started your reading. The first message that came through was attending to important matters. So this would be making sure that you're prioritizing anything that's on a timeline or a deadline, particularly things like if you've had a deadline far in the future, and so things have been kind of sitting there on the back burner, if there's a potential for them to be missed or overlooked because they've been on the back burner for a while and the deadline is coming up, and just kind of making sure that you're crossing those things off your list, like revisiting everything that you've got going on and prioritizing the things so that you're not going to miss any deadlines. And especially focusing on matters that have the ability to like vastly improve your quality of life if by doing them, or vastly like decrease your quality of life if you were to procrastinate or to miss them, right? So it's just kind of checking in, making sure you're taking care of all those important matters, particularly anything related to paperwork, anything that, you know, you might get caught up in red tape, anything that might have to do with contracts or legal matters. Yeah, just take care of it, get it out of the way, especially because Mercury is going into retrograde, I think September 9th. And so that can pose issues when it comes to communications, written documents. So it's like tend to it, pay a lot of attention, make sure all of your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, that you've read over things and that you understand things. Get another pair of eyes to look over things as well, and just make sure that so it may take a little bit of extra effort and attention. You might just need to be extra careful about taking care of things, like things may kind of mess up or slip under the radar. Even like if you're using technology to handle matters, there can be glitches, things not being completed or fully sent. So yeah, just be hyper aware of that, I would say. The next thing is endings are necessary for new beginnings, which is so funny because I channeled that message and I didn't even have your oracle cards out, and literally your strengths is like ending a new beginning. So endings are necessary for new beginnings. So especially if things have been feeling tired and old, if you've been kind of like slowing down or stagnating or just ready for a shift, it's recognizing like what can you let go of, what can you release, what doors have closed or what doors are asking to be closed. So you know, you might not have the next door open, you might not have the next thing lined up before you fully shut the door on something old, but it's recognizing that, allowing yourself to disconnect, allowing things to end, honoring those endings, and recognizing that you can kind of take the lessons, take the tools, take the wisdom that you've gained from that situation or that experience, and intentionally shut the door on it, sends a message to the universe and to yourself, consciously and subconsciously, that you're ready for something new, right? Because you're willing to make that space before you've got a very obvious door open ahead of you, right? And before you necessarily know what it is you'd like to bring in. So it's kind of like, it's important to, yeah, if you're feeling ready for a change, it's important to start making whatever changes you can by removing the things that are not going to be coming with you. So it's like if you want to change in career, it's like closing the door on career and on the career that you have, or the things about that career that you don't want to repeat in your next one, kind of thing. Yeah, so it's like being aware of what can stay in the past and being willing to close those doors, and recognize that you might have like a little bit of an uncomfortable space where nothing's moving and you don't necessarily have that next thing sorted out, but it's coming, right? So with every ending, there is a beginning. There's always another opportunity should you choose to accept it. So you don't have to worry that closing the door on one thing or multiple things will leave you in a space of no opportunity. It just might take some time. That opportunity might just be a little seedling growing under the surface, and it just might take some time for that to become evident to you. The next message that came through was everything has its place. So it's kind of like respecting the idea of interconnectedness, that we all have a purpose, whether we know what that purpose is or not, whether we're living that purpose, that, you know, no one and nothing exists solely independently. You know, we rely on each other. We're meant to kind of help lift each other up. If it comes to purpose and you're wondering what your purpose is, or you're trying to figure it out, it's kind of an encouragement to step into this unique energy, this authentic energy, to not worry so much about limiting yourself to living a normal life or doing things in a normal way or following the rules, and to recognize that there's this like creative, you know, rebellious nature within you that, you know, it is longing to be connected with, right? So it might just be a matter of embracing that energy and allowing yourself to see where that might lead you. Or if you're already kind of in that energy, if you're already working toward it, or like, you know, aware of your purpose and just trying to connect with and embrace it more, it's recognizing, like, just kind of like keep doing what you're doing, right? Trusting that things are being woven when you take action from that place. And the more that you embrace your authenticity and joy, the more that you attract. And it's also to remember that if you're still figuring things out, it's okay, because life, you know, it's a lifelong journey. It's never going to end. You know, the most is you're going to accomplish, and then you're going to move on to something new that's going to take you further down the path of, you know, your purpose. So, there's no real destination to get to. So you can enjoy the adventure for where you are right now, knowing that you're always going to be moving, right? You're never going to be done. And then the last thing that came through was something borrowed. And it made me think of that, like something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. So it could be related to a wedding, your wedding, a wedding of someone close to you. It could even be an anniversary. It could be exchanging gifts. The idea of lending and receiving being highlighted. So if there's something being lent to you or something that you're borrowing, it's being open to receive, you know, not turning down those opportunities or those blessings when they come to you, and recognizing that, you know, it's important to have that exchange of like giving and receiving in our relationships. Yeah, so you might be receiving support or like goods. It could be related to something that you have borrowed from someone else or are lending, that has sentimental value, that could be connected to a wedding, like, you know, pearls or like a wedding ring, or I don't know, something like that. But yeah, and then it's just like highlighted sharing and an openness to receive as well as to give. So that could be also part of the balance, if that makes sense for you. Right, and finally, we're going to get you a couple of affirmations to tie everything together. This will be your final bit of advice to go hand in hand with the final oracle message I'll get for you. So these affirmations might be helpful as you're moving through the energy of this month and these themes of, you know, stepping outside the norm, stepping off the beaten path, and handling the discomfort of the unknown and the potential lack of awareness, or lack of awareness as to how things are going to go, or what is being woven. Okay, let's see. We've got one here. I radiate love and gratitude. Okay. So that's also important, because what you're focused on, like I said, is what eventually takes shape in your reality. It informs what you're creating right now. So if you're in a place of love and gratitude, not only are you going to be able to benefit from it by connecting to that high vibrational energy now and being aware of the things that you love, being grateful for the things that are meaningful in your life, but so that's like, it's a current present moment bit of joy, but it also is going to impact the way that you are viewing and taking action in the world, which ultimately ends up impacting what you're going to create. So when you create from a place of love and gratitude, really, really beautiful things happen. That kind of like supercharges, this creative power that you have this month. And your second affirmation is, I forgive myself and I set myself free. And I think this is really important to recognize that if you're coming into a space where you're recognizing that you've been disconnected from your creativity, or you haven't been honoring your emotions and your intuitions, you've been trying too hard to be acceptable or to embody the values that are really highly respected, like in terms of being really logical and having a plan, or perhaps not being super logical and having a plan and beating yourself up for feeling like you're a failure or you'll never amount to anything because you're not following the rules. It could be taking back your power and realizing if you're living that life, maybe you just need to stop worrying about judging yourself for not fitting the mold and figure out exactly how you're breaking it in your own way, right? So there's a sense of forgiving yourself for any ways that you've judged or limited yourself, especially if you're becoming aware of and balancing out these limiting beliefs, these things that are causing you to feel stuck and helpless. Once you come to realize that, it can be a really difficult experience because you realize like, wow, I was holding myself back for no reason, or now I see that what I thought was, true is not true, and I committed to that for so long that I missed so many opportunities, right? It's easy to go back and beat up on yourself, but this is basically saying like, if you've come to that awareness, it's a beautiful gift to help you move forward in a way that's more aligned. So you don't need to worry about beating yourself up. You can grant yourself forgiveness for anything that you feel that held you back, or anything that you perceive as a mistake, and be willing to allow yourself to be free to move forward with that new information and insight to use to your advantage, right? Because that's what it's really about. Okay, so we'll get you one final oracle message as your last little piece of advice for this month. Sorry, this reading is long. All of the readings have been long this month. Okay, so you have, there we go, truth be told. And you know what I love? It's 14, and this card is 14. So that's almost like if you needed it, an extra little bit of validation that, this is the time for you to be true to yourself and to feel powerful in claiming your authenticity, expressing yourself authentically, and having the courage to just, to go beyond normal. The other thing that I will say, truth be told, like I said, expressing, claiming your truth and speaking that firmly, whether other people may receive it or understand it well, it could be something that inspires fear. So we've got truth be told, and the owl is here as well. So that's another point of significance. So this is also the thing that I will say is, if you know what's true for you, but you try to limit yourself by doing things in an acceptable way, then it's like you're selling yourself short, right? And so the power is within you, if you know your truth, to figure out how you can be moved by that. So I'm just going to read this directly from the guidebook. I'll use that as your last little piece of advice to tie everything together. So it says the essential meanings are honesty, accepting things at face value, coming out of denial, the willingness to be transparent, and clarity of communication. The oracle's message says there is the truth, which is the essence of a thing, and then there is a truth, which is subjective according to the philosophy of the adherent or believer, which is what I said. Like, there are absolute truths and there are personal truths. That's insane. That's exactly what I was saying here. This is not a time for debate about which truth is truer. This is a time when you are called to proclaim your truth out loud and be willing to be transparent, honest, and open in your communication with others and with yourself. Nothing less than surrender to what is, peeling off the layers of denial that kept you tied to an illusion, will set you free. Be authentic and gloriously flawed. Spirit will answer with miracles. And then there's a relationship message. People tell you who they are very quickly if you're willing to listen to what they say and pay attention to how they behave. This card tells you to engage in the heartfelt, open conversations. It's time to see the truth about what you share with each other and tell the truth about who you are and what you need. No one can do that for you. Remember that your truth is always based in your personality and experience up to now. A higher truth will be found after you communicate honestly and see how doing so has helped you become more attuned to yourself. Don't hold back, speak your truth, and listen. And then there's prosperity. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to experience the prosperous life you desire? If you want to be an artist, do you make your art a priority? If you want to be a healer, do you set aside time to learn new things to help you serve? A writer must write and a singer must sing. Being true to your calling is essential to moving forward. There is another oracle message here too. It's time to have a look at the real, honest truth about your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about prosperity, about your relationship to money, to compensation, and to meaningful work, which that's what this could be about. Limiting beliefs about money and work and happiness and the intersection of those things. Ask yourself, what is true for me? And you will find the key to abundance. So that's where your power is. All right. And then we have a protection message. Where are you being dishonest with yourself or others? If you're unhappy in any area of your life, look for signs of denial. This can also pertain to others being misleading or withholding or acting from hidden agendas. Now is the time to say no to dishonesty in all forms. Ask for the truth. Even if you don't like what you hear, acknowledging it will be a key to a beautiful new future where you no longer labor under the heavy burdens that deceit and denial impose on you. Set yourself free. Nothing less than truth is required now. So that could also be, what you're letting go of, what's ending. It could be coming to realize like what's true, recognizing and owning your personal truth and sharing that openly, seeing how it's received and what that tells you, asking other people for the truth, being willing to see the truth of the matter. And that may be difficult, but it may be very illuminating in terms of things that are ready to be released, right? So anything that's deceitful, anything that's withholding, that could be exactly what you're disconnecting from and letting go of so that you can step more deeply into your potential. I'm sorry, I am so congested. I don't know if I have allergies or maybe this is something that you guys suffer from. I have not had such an itchy, stuffed up nose like ever. Gosh, it's just gotten worse as I've done the reading. So apologies if that's been disruptive. But anyways, Gemini, I'm going to leave your reading here. I hope you guys have a beautiful month. I hope that this was helpful. If you did enjoy this reading or you found it to be helpful in any way, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, leave me a message, let me know how it resonated, leave me a comment. Beyond that, if there's anyone you could think of that might be interested in or might benefit from my readings, you can feel free to share my content or my channel with them. And if you haven't already, take a look at my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot and ensure you're not only subscribed to the channel, but also signed up for notifications. So that will be the little bell icon. That is what will keep you up to date on new readings as they are posted. So Gemini, very happy with this reading for you guys. Overall, it seems like there's a lot of potential for you to capitalize on, and you could really kind of start, getting some ideas about how you're going to start moving differently and shifting and shaking things up in your life, which is, if you've been waiting for some kind of new excitement, there's the opportunity for that to really start taking shape this month. So it's been an absolute pleasure reading for you guys as always. Very much looking forward to reconnecting with you again next month. And in the meantime, until we see each other again, I'm wishing you all the very best.